Should we discuss something?
I don't know.
Скоросмъртница or
About Скоросмъртница, I would like that.
Tomorrow we'll try the
We'll list
Скоросмъртница
tomorrow.
Anna is here for 4 days now.
Yeah.
It's her first time in Sofia.
Niki?
We have 5 English-speaking colleagues with us actually today.
I can
Most English than Bulgarians.
Yeah, most English than Bulgarian. So I'm really glad that this place is becoming so international.
It's an international conference.
The idea of this meeting was to have a gathering of Bulgarian literary managers. There is actually no Bulgarian expression for literary manager. If you say Literatura manager in Bulgarian, it really sounds weird. Neither in Serbian, I think.
Manager. No.
Manager
No.
literatura.
No. It's like somebody invented some job just
What
to
kind of word?
Say
Yes, in
English.
Serbian.
Yeah.
But what kind of
For editor is already.
Yeah, but for not publisher, but I don't know, manager in the literary field, let's say. Because we have a cultural managers who, let's say, manage the dance schools, dance clubs, or theater, troops.
We have kulturni radnik. That can be
Литературния радник.
that can be like
Well, работник.
you can do like anything in the culture of
What
kulturan
about
radnik.
literature producer? Yeah.
Yeah.
But we are mostly producing events, not really. Anyway, there is the same problem, similar problem with cultural, with the expression, with the notion of cultural manager in Bulgarian, because in Bulgarian, if you say kulturan manager, that is like, it assumes that they may be non-cultural manager. So non-culture, or so you have to say manager na kulturata, manager of culture, which is already too heavy. Anyway, we are trying to set up the technical issue in a while, but I cannot bring my laptop while I'm introducing Ana Maria. The idea was to really exchange experiences about what we do and what Anna does, and for her to also introduce the work of some colleagues or even perhaps competitors, of course, in the literary field in Belgrade. Nobody is just a poet or a writer. Anna is primarily literary manager, an editor, and she's also doing her PhD right now at the University of Belgrade under the supervision of the prominent Serbian writer Mihайло Pantich, who is also translated into Bulgarian, I believe.
Most of his books, yeah.
And her PhD is on another contemporary Serbian short story writer, but so you can talk about this with her later if you want. Ana Maria will stay in Sofia until the end of the month. I would appreciate if you please, Bulgarian colleagues, please introduce her to the Sofia literary life. So far she only she knows the Zvishenie translation into Serbian. She knows of Gospodinov. She took a look at Alexander Shpatov's book on Sofia.
I read some poems.
She read some poems. She was using the library over there with Zdravka Timova's translation into Serbian with Cyrillic letters. And she's slowly getting into Bulgarian language. The first word she learned today is skoro smrtnica, from my colleague Victor. Skoro smrtnica is a nickname for a particular type of rakia that is very strong, and literally it means
You will die soon. Almost. You will almost die.
if somebody has a better...
Yeah, it would be like
Quick
really hard to
death,
translate.
actually.
Quick death.
Quick
Yeah.
death,
Yeah.
yes, that's what so if we can do a quick round of introduction as to who is who. I'm Jana, and I'll go downstairs to pick my computer.
Hello, I'm Sarah Craycraft. You might be here a bit by accident. I'm a PhD student. I study folklore and community documentation, and I was invited by Roland.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Alexander Shpatov. She mentioned my book, which was stories about Sofia. After this book came out, the people from the municipality started talking with me because they liked the book. And I said, let's do something useful. Not only just...
Not a book.
So I had an idea to make a library in downtown Sofia, and together with the municipality, it's been 4 years already, which we set up this small library. We also do how to say, donation campaigns for books from other libraries in Bulgaria. We've donated so far, I believe, around 19,000 books across Bulgaria. And last thing, since 2 years, I do this literary map of Sofia and also some literature tours.
I'm Safuzar Zhelev, and I'm director of the National Book Center and the National Palace of Culture and Literary Club Perioto, which is literary stage, bar, place for reading, co-working space, a lot of things. I used to be a publisher for many years, TV host, literary activist. I like this words for me. Years ago we created a foundation called Elizabeth Kostova Foundation with American writer Elizabeth Kostova, supporting creative writing in Bulgaria and communication between Bulgarian and English language. We organized a festival, capital literature in Sofia, seminars in Sozopol in the seaside, with English-speaking authors, publishers, literary agents, magazine editors, and translators from all over the world, English-speaking world, and Bulgarian writers and publishers and literary managers. What other? Yeah, we organized in Perioto every year nearly 300 literary events every year and nearly 600 other events every year.
Again and again.
Funerals not. Actually there was one. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Funeral.
After a funeral, yeah. Not ceremony, but drinking after funeral.
Oh, girl.
Yeah.
My name is Roman Zarosov. Actually, I'm a poet, basically. I'm an editor of Ана Мария magazine, who is one of famous literature magazine from 90s. Also, I'm an organizer of Sofia Poetics Poetry Festival. It's a simple presentation.
And you're running Читалище, no?
Many NGOs.
Maybe.
Many NGOs.
Four.
I'm Will Buckingham. I'm a writer, I write fiction non-fiction, mainly non-fiction at the moment. So I'm currently working on my 10th book or something for Granta. First book for Granta, my 10th book, which is a non-fiction book about strangers, effectively. Not like Malcolm Gladwell's, because that's terrible. So a book about strangers for Granta I'm working on at the moment, almost finished. We've just moved to Sofia, Hannah and I, and we run a project called Wind and Bones. We've been working in various places, Indonesia, Myanmar and Greece, on a bunch of projects at the intersection of creativity, writing, social justice. And we're doing some, well, we're kicking off doing some classes here in Sofia. So we're here for 6 months in the first instance.
Right, like it's in universities or in
various places. So we're doing, we're starting off with some courses here in association with Sofia University, but we've done stuff in refugee camps, we've done stuff with NGOs in Myanmar, so a wide range of stuff.
My name's Hannah Stevens. I have a PhD in creative writing. I write short stories, flash fiction, fiction for children, and non-fiction personal essays. My book-length collection of short stories will be out early next year, which is a collection of short stories on the theme of missing people. And also I write and teach, so co-direct the Wind and Bones organisation as well.
There is a, Ana Maria is also running creative writing workshops for children and for teenagers and for students in Belgrad, and so you should talk about this.
Okay, so I'm Sarah Bickmore-Phillips, English, living in Bulgaria for several years. I'm a visual artist, mostly acrylics, but also textiles. And that's it really. We run a studio with several other people, and we hold events there.
And they also have they have creative writing ateliers
Yeah.
or workshops.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm Tom Phillips. I've lived in Bulgaria for 2 years. I'm a former resident here. He became resident.
From writer in residence to literary resident. As a writer, I write poetry and drama mostly, but I translate mainly contemporary Bulgarian poetry into English, and I edit, it's a kind of very erratic magazine called Balkan Poetry Today, which kind of happens when my publisher and I feel like it, or we're able to. We run little writing workshops at our studio, but I also teach creative writing at the Sofia University now, and with an organisation called Sofia Writing Challenge. In which department in the university?
In the English department.
Okay. Do you want to have Ana Maria over at your place next weekend to talk to the young writers? That they have a small place near the central train station.
Downtown.
Yeah.
Downtown. in the district that is soon to be gentrified. You are gentrified. And you are introducing literature.
Please talk.
My name is Tudora Radeva. I'm program director of Sofia International Literary Festival. It happens every year in December, and now will be 7th edition. We was our guest in 2016. Sasha was our guest, of course. And this year we focus on French language literature. We expect
not outside France.
Yeah, only one from France. Maybe two, because this from Bernard Kuman. He born in Switzerland but live in France and work in France. So I'm also program director of Reading Sofia Foundation. We make some projects during city in the city.
Should I introduce myself?
The journalist today was actually not very well prepared, and she was asking Ana Marия, because I put this sexy title, literature in the city, so the journalist was asking her all the time about literary tourism.
Strange question, but I like it.
And then twice, insistently, she was like, and what if a literary tourist comes to Belgrade? What?
And believe me, nobody's coming to Belgrade because of the literature. But I was thinking there's something here, like literary tourism. That's why I was like...
Because of what these two people are doing, introducing literature and doing these literary walks around the city, and that's a hot topic because of that.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, it's very new usually for a year.
But I mean, the journalist was influenced by what these two people are doing, and assuming that you do the same, but if you are not doing this in Belgrade, please get some know-how from them, because it's really... Anyway, okay, I'll shut up. We cannot solve the computer issue.
Well, I should try to do this, not quickly, but briefly. So I would like to present literature in the city, at least what I'm doing now in Belgrade. Like 10 years ago, and this is maybe for somebody who's reading Serbian literature, this will not be anything new, but for 10 years now we have really like some blooming of poetry, and prose is a huge problem, but today we have like maybe 10 festivals only for poets, and to be poet in Belgrade, or when I say Belgrade, it's because everything is centralized in one city, so let's assume that I'm talking about Serbia. From maybe 500 awards in the country, 350 are only for poetry, so that should tell us a lot of things. Of course, you have like that nationalistic poets who doesn't want to talk to anybody, and they get prizes for 20,000 euros, nobody cares, nobody reads them. But then you have like this middle generation, which is 60 years old, and then you have young generation until 50 years. So, then again, you are a young poet until 50 years, and then when you are 51, then you are in the middle generation, and when you are half dead, then you are like in that older. And then you are like the real poet. So you constantly have to like prove yourself that you are like, that I'm not that young, or to deal with that kind of like generational like gap or something. And 10 years ago we were like really kids, three of us, and then we wanted to make some kind of poetry happening or anything. We didn't have any idea what we were doing. Pesničenje was big then, and Pesničenje was the organization they were having poets and also musicians, and they were more into performing arts, and we wanted something for, you know, the shy poets who are like, who cannot do that singing and all of that on the stage, so to put them in some place where they will feel more comfortable, etc. So we made this RGH poetry evenings, and we put them in the clubs, so the people can drink and smoke, which was just basically to put poetry back in kafana. I mean, kafana is in Serbian, but I don't know what is kafana in Bulgarian. It's not the club, it's
kafana.
It's kafana.
Can you please explain the notion to the non-Balkan people?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I realized that we're half. I'm sorry. Well, kafana is like a place where you can eat and listen to a bit like, not traditional music now, but some kind of, you get some kind of ethno feeling and more domestic feeling than club. It's much smaller than a club, and it's like some familiar thing, so it's not even, you don't dance in kafana. You just sit and drink, that's basically the...
But it's a community, it's traditionally from early 20th century.
Yeah.
It's a place for community gatherings.
Yeah. And it was big for poets, because, yeah, then again it's a lot of alcohol there.
Singing with its pub, you know, the local
yeah,
pub.
It's similar to club,
yeah.
But the club, for sure not. So we decided to put the Argah there, and I mean, now we are like, for 9 years, every last Wednesday in a month, we are having one poetry evening with 10 poets who are reading their poetry in 3 circles. First one and the second one, they are reading their own poetry, and the third one, they are sharing their favorite poets with others. So we are making some kind of...
We have these poetic duels. Duel?
Yeah, but there are going 10 of... No, there's no... It's 10 of them, no, because we wanted to make like really, really nice atmosphere for everybody. Like calm and like... Because slam poetry is like that, and we are not... Well, this will maybe be interesting. When we were founded like 9 years ago, like that slam organization, and other ones, they called us fascist because we had this rule, and we still have this rule, that you have to send your poetry before you are reading and before you are on the list for that evening, which was in that time like, oh, catastrophical. You cannot just enter in the room and start to read your poetry, which is a good concept, but it's not ours. So our public is constantly like anticipating one kind of, well, I will say it, quality that we try to like be fair to for years.
Sorry, and do you have any criteria in terms of, I mean, how do you define quality?
Yeah,
well, okay.
That's also always a good question. Well, we have like all the time we have 3 poets who are constantly like changing their places, so they are reading everything that is like coming in. Of course, that we are taking, like if somebody is 16 years old and we love to bring like really young poets, then criteria is like changing a bit. So that's why they're sending biography and poems or short stories. We are not like, we're always open to short stories. Of course, you must read the novel because you have 3 minutes per circle, but it's not only the poetry organization. But I'm prepared some pictures.
Yeah,
The Stranger.
Send them to Victor's email. That's the only computer that actually.
The Stranger thing is, I think, is for 9 years now we have. There is so much like interest in that poetry nights, and so much people that they cannot enter the kafana. Literally, they cannot enter in. So it's strange because it's poetry, and then again because it's poetry in Belgrade nowadays, it's not that strange. But to be that like for poetry night, to be that crowded, when somebody is reading, for everybody just to shut up in that moment and to be like totally silent for. Well, one circle of reading for 10 poets is like maybe half an hour straight listening to poetry that in the kafana, which is like not so formal surroundings for that, that's like a big deal for us. So it's always, of course, ticket is free, nobody has to pay anything.
How big is the place?
Like
no, just let's say
so
100 people.
100, yeah, maybe. Yeah, 100. For us, that's huge. I mean, considering like that's every last Wednesday, so it's pretty repetitive. And we have this rule that not that one poet has to wait for 2 evenings to read again. So then it's like really hard to have 10 poets every month, 10 different poets every month. But we have guests from Croatia, I don't know, Macedonia, so Bulgaria. We don't have anywhere because we are constantly. We are like from the first day. We are. When I say non-profit, I mean really non-profit organization, like nothing. When I literally non-profit. So we are. When somebody is on the residence, we are like, oh, give us that person, because he's already there. So we are like trying somehow to have some I'm sorry, I have to type now and I cannot multitask because I'm very bad. Okay. See, I didn't.
Send it to Victor somewhere.
I'm trying to enter my email. So. My internet is bad. So, but I think that thing about poetry itself, it's like important, because like now we have constant meetings with Croatian publishers and radnici u kulturi from Croatia and Serbia are constantly talking about it, that Croatia is now having like a really, really great prose writers, and we don't have any, or we have just a few of them, but we are really, really big in poetry now. So, and every other poet who is like, or translator who is like doing a bit of Serbian poetry, which is rarely, is like really pleasantly surprised about number of names, because every 3 years there is a poetry book who will change the paradigm. Yeah, in poetry, and it is like renewing and changing all the time, and you cannot stay, you cannot be the same. So every of your book has to be like different, but you have to have your authentic voice, and still not to be that voice of generations, whatever that means, like, because they are always talking about that kind of stuff. I don't know what is the point of that. So, except like having like that no, never, ever profit or poetry evenings, of course we have some projects that we go aside, like creative writing workshops, and I'm teaching students for 3 years now, and we have classes that are 3 hours long, once a week, and then for the whole year, so that is really, really intensive work. I mean,
so you're getting rich on the creative writing?
Yeah, I have 2,000 euros per class. So, I don't know.
So that you can fund.
I don't know what to do with the money.
Yeah.
But you not sell the books of the poets in the readings?
No. I mean, if somebody wants to sell his own
Why
books,
you not sell?
because then it will be like somebody, and that's, yeah, thank you, that's another important thing. Like when, from the beginning, the point was to bring like really famous poets, which the poets that never published anything. So it will be really unfair to sell somebody's books and somebody is not having like any books to sell. So that's why we are never, and nobody was ever special guest at our poetry evenings, and we were having like winners of NIM prize like for numerous times, and we are always calling them and telling them like you will read like everybody else, and that's the point, and that's the whole idea. Sometimes they are like, oh, but I want to be a special guest, but then we don't call them ever again. And actually we publicly shame them, like every time. I don't know how they reject us anyway.
It's a good point for the poets who are not so popular, you know, when the people, let's say 100 people in the room, listen to them and want to buy them book, and they don't have it. Because, you know, it's an impulse buying. They like the poetry, they want to buy it. And if they left the room, they will never buy the book of these poets.
Yeah, maybe we should rethink that. But the thing is that, like, the people who are coming to Arabica, they already have that book because they're really passionate about poetry. And during these 10 years, like some strange poetry nation thing, we developed like maybe bigger poetry reading like public. So they're like this book. I mean, this is really a small number, but I will give you an example. This was my second book. Nobody knows who I am in that point, or somebody, but it's really, and it's a famous publisher, so maybe that's why it was sold in 2000. Yeah, 2000, which is crazy for poetry. That's like, and I'm not the only one. It's not me, like, we have a best-selling copy. It's not me being popular. Like my friend Marko Tomasz is selling like 5,000. So that's like, I mean, that's the world that we live in. It's good to be poet in Serbia right now. That's why I stopped.
We have a news, for sure.
I mean, I'm an editor in a publishing house, and I went to Poland to meet an author, which I was editing his book, and then he is one of the famous living Polish poets, and people were on the street like, can I touch you? And I was like, what is this? And he was like, oh, the life of poet is so difficult. Like, I cannot sell even maybe like 3,000, 4,000 books. And I was like, do you think I will sell that much in Serbia? And I was like, no. Because like, of course, in Serbia, Serbian poets will sell. Like, if you are coming even from Croatia, maybe if you're coming from Bulgaria, Hungary, nothing will happen, which is then again crazy. If we are reading poetry and we are writing poetry, we should like read poetry, like contemporary European poetry or something like that, but that's not happen.
Is it because people don't believe that there may be a good translation of a poem?
No, I think they believe that Serbian poetry is like top of the you know where to go, what's to speak more. Yeah. Okay. So what's to do more with the life? Then I mean, there is this little bit like, and now when I'm talking, I sound probably a little bit prevalent about that, but it is like that feeling that we are writing the best poetry, like in Europe today, based on what I don't know. But the fact is that that Serbian poetry is translated more than 10 years before. It's like having more like readers than 10 years before. The quality can we really discuss that? I don't know. But
Stevan Tomtic was a guest of ours last year.
He is in the oldest.
He's the one with the words.
Oh, they're not communicating with us, and that's also the big deal. Like, you have these poets or writers. I mean, the prose writers, they're much nicer. No, I'm talking only about the poets. So they're untouchable. They don't care about you until you're 60, and then maybe they will. But then again, they're not getting anything from younger generation, so they stay like a little bit hermetical or closed, and they are not having any innovations, but they don't communicate with anybody than themselves and 3 colleagues and the jury of the prize. No, the jury's prize. Which is like, and in the beginning, 10 years ago, that was frustrating for us, for the younger generation. But now it's like we don't even like have a need to connect with them anymore, which is sad, because they were like pushing us away. And for example, literary critics, like the older one, were never writing about new books of the new authors, which is I think the worst scenario we can have. And younger critics were writing about their books, and then they stopped in one moment because they were like, why are we doing that? We are not sharing anything between us. I suppose it's similar here, or I'm wrong. Because in like all of the countries that I was...
No, here it's not anymore about generations. I think it's more about groups. Based on aesthetics or politics or... Yeah.
It's not about the generations, you can like...
But in the same...
died.
Kill them all!
A few weeks ago.
Yeah, and the other point is that the same like your place, a lot of young poets together make a small places for reading or a small groups and start to talk about them using social medias and became most popular. And there was 2 new. It was a huge scandal 2 years ago in the literary field. The topic was the literary newspaper, which is our oldest newspaper on literature. And on this moment, the good thing after the scandal, there start 2 new online literary medias of the groups of poets and writers who was against mainstream, and they create first new social poetry, Yeah. Okay. And after that, part of them create new anti-social and
newest.
Yeah, but now we have two new online medias of young poets and young people, and from the other part is the people like Georgi Gavrilov, Ана Лазарова, Кралупата.
I invited them tonight, but they didn't.
In this,
and I invited Ivan Dimitrov as well.
Yeah.
Because of
there is a groups of young poets, but I think everything happens most in social medias. In Bulgaria, the place for young writers, poets is the new social medias. This is the point, because we have very small number of literary magazines and newspapers, very small number, let's say 3 or 4. And yeah, social media is the point and the only possibility, actually. But they're strong, organize festivals, became publishers too, like Upata. And they made some anthologies, like new social poetry. They used
But what is the meaning of social in that?
It's very long talk we must have
is
to
it something
explain
political?
you.
I'm from Serbia. When you say socialism, I'm like getting.
It's supposed to be.
Leftist.
Yeah, they create in the very beginning manifesto on a new social poetry, and they use it as a base of the philosophy of the new society. Let's say. And in this manifesto have political, social things on the, mixing by the person of the writer and the text and things like this, the things, Rombach and a lot of, and politics.
It's
and
a mixture of Zizek and
a kind.
And so it is politicized.
Not with the political life, but let's say a kind of ideology, but in the very, very.
Are they promoting that in their literature, or is
no. It's just in the manifesto, and they just use these words.
Yeah, that's the problem, that they are called new social poetry, and there is nothing social in the poetry. In terms of engagement.
And no poetry, but it's other thing, of course.
Is this performing poetry, like slam or?
Here, this tradition is still very, very new. It's in Elizabeth Kostovo Foundation, we organize slams, but it's not popular here. We have some people like Martin Petrushev and Kuchev, Koso Kuchev. They create Satvorini. It's a game with the rhymes and Satvo with Satvorenia creation, and they make the slam poetry with guitar and music and poetry and improvisations and things like this. But it's very rare. We don't have it, often.
We have some, like, one organization, I think. They're not like organizing on every month basis, but they have like maybe 3 times a year the slam festival or something like that. But then again in Serbia, it's always the poetry with some kind of political engagement that can be pretty naive, I have to say. And I think that because it is at the beginning, they're a little bit confused of what is the slam poetry at all, and should it be like spoken poetry. And I think that the youngest generation thinks that spoken poetry has to do only with the politics, and that's it. So they don't like mix that with some maybe contemporary poetry or something else. It's just like straight manifest, like against this or for this or for gay rights, and that's so good, but I'm not sure how much literature there is in that kind of performance. But they're not making that on a regular basis, I think, because the public is not like interested in that much, and I was thinking like why RGH is having so many people coming on our evenings, and I realized it's because of the simplicity, because it is like poet and poem, and he's reading a poem, and it's like always like very fast, and it's going. So we don't have some like complicated program or something, because you cannot do that for 9 years. You cannot do every month a complicated program.
But it's interesting, we don't have enough readings. Actually, we don't have a traditions after the socialist time. In the socialist times we had it, now we don't have it. In Bulgaria, it's a book presentation with more talks.
Is it boring like in Serbia?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a very small number of readings.
But not as boring as in Germany.
In Germany, usually it's a
The
reading.
worst.
And it's very different from.
I mean, in Serbia, when it's a book presentation, you really, really, really don't want to buy the book after, even if you want to buy it out. And everything is like perfect. After 1 hour of some critics that are like talking the language that they like use that academic like high language, which is, I don't know, because they are all so important and everything is so important. And then but the poor writer is sitting like this, not understanding the questions. They're asking him something and he's like, yeah, and did you use this postmodernism in the way that your syntax is like, like yeah. And then they're like talking 90% of the time, and 10% of the time the writer is just a little bit shy and confused with everything, and he's like, and that's on one side, and the other side is like performance, and this would be interesting. They're like doing poetry presentations, stihovano, what is that in English?
Stihovano.
Rhyming.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're rhyming all the time. No.
But like improvisation. Or?
Yeah, but like for example, I'm moderating the evening, and while I'm doing that, presenting you, I'm also rhyming. It's like a Bollywood movie. And everybody's eating because they have sponsors. So they're like cool.
That's nice with Poland.
I have to admit that
you mean they are improvising in rhyme on the spot?
Yeah, but all of them, the critics and
The critics, right?
Yeah, everything.
Perfect.
I mean, it is interesting, but
It's a nice.
What rhymes with postmodern? Like
They don't do that. They do much. Then you avoid the word. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I cannot lie. It's just anything to do with the book that is present.
What's the point
To be like, because if it is, this is
attractive.
This is only for book of poetry. So because it is a poetry, then it has to be rhymed. It is absolutely ridiculous. But still, that's better than the traditional one. If you had to choose, would you go to the rhyming one or the 1 hour critics? I mean, you have to like choose but there is no like, sometimes the young poets, and I really admire them, they do the video presentations and they make movies, some like about their books.
VJing or something.
Yeah, like also, and that is like really cool. So when they have like that visual presentation and sound, and they're reading in certain way, it doesn't have to be slang or spoken word, but they have some rhythm, and then that can be really like it can consume you, and that can be great. Like all of my students from 3 years ago, now they have like their own movie. They were making it while we were, because one of my mentors, not for creative writing, but Alejandro Khodorovsky is one of my life mentors. So with him I was like discussing this like methods of my creative writing, like and what should I do, and of course he was like forcing like other medias to come into the story, and that was great. So they were making, for every of my students' book, they had like at least 3 movies. And they had movies before the book came out, and they had like during the book, during the writing of the book. And then they had movies after.
Like trailers, that's the new thing. Not that new anymore, but book trailers.
Yeah, they have all of them have books. Which is also like, they or they do some kind of like, they did some kind of series about poems, which was that was great, like, because it was like coming in like, 3 of them were making like 10 episodes, which was great, without reading any poetry, it was only visual. So that was the good part of that.
But can I ask, sorry for interrupting perhaps, but okay, if you're a young poet in Bulgaria, for example, as we already mentioned, there are very few printed periodicals that you can publish your work.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really have the support of more experienced old generation poets or editors. There is one sort of the established publishers who has a strong line on contemporary Bulgarian literature, and then there are some smaller alternative publishers. But in Serbia, what is your career track as a young poet?
Well, it's always
the usual, if there is a usual.
Yeah, there
career
is.
track.
It's always the same. Like you are on a festival, you win an award on the festival. Then award is for the first book, so they will publish your first book.
Yeah.
And then after you have, you can go 2 ways. Then you have a festival for the second book, so you can go there, or you can just go to the publisher like Lom. I suppose you know that he published Vajarevich, and he's like Flavio is really into the like young, not so young authors, but in like I want to say domestic authors. Serbian authors. So I went to him with my second book, and he was okay, but it's not because he's generous or something. It's just because poetry is so big now, so he knew that somebody would read it. So you can go in that way. So of course, first book has to be on the festival. You have to win the, but there is 7 festivals for first book, so you're not like. It's not a problem.
And they invited poets to come, or
no, you are going.
Applied for. Okay.
Južna Prolет.
You're applying for them?
No, but Južna Prolet is for prize for first book.
This is for the
first book,
this is like, they are publishing your first book.
But I think Vasilin Kanchev is like this. You don't have the book, you applied for the festival, and if you took the prize, actually the prize is to your book to be published. Yeah. And a lot of poets start from the
that's a good
Kanchev prize.
But then these kind of books, I don't know if that is the case here, are not getting like in any bookstores. So it's like really you cannot buy them.
But when you have the money for the book publishing, you can choose the publishing house, and you can choose a big publishing house.
You're getting money, and then no, in Serbia you're always getting published in that organization.
Yeah, in the Vasilin Kanchev you have 2,000. I don't know the exact money, but they give you money, and you can choose the publishing house to make a contract with them, and they publish the book.
Oh, that's super. That's much better. Because in this like. When you publish in like this kind of like festival edition, then like it's really hard for somebody like to find it in any bookstore. And after that, you can go to publish it in like festival for the second book. I think we have now a festival for the third poetry book, because and then people realize it is a problem after your first book to publish the second one. So and after the second one, the third one. But I think that's much better solution.
And these festivals and awards, are they funded by the city or by the region, or like this old periodicals that we were talking about, like Smederevo Literary Journal, Kragujevac?
Everything is Jesen and Proleće.
Jesen and Proleće, yes.
Well, I think they are like all government funded. Some of them are now going in Europe because they want to present money for the first time to people who are getting the prize. But usually that is the city, who is like who is giving that prize. Because if you want that prize, like, yeah, for sure you can fund one book to be published, and you are not doing anything about distribution, so you don't have to use that money for that.
Yeah.
So it's quite easy if you know what you are doing. If you are a young poet in Serbia, it's quite easy to publish, I think, the first book. At least the first book. It's quite easy.
And in terms of support from editors, older generation,
when you publish a book like that, you don't have editor. They are like, for my first book, which I didn't present it with a reason, I won that prize, and they were like, I asked them, could I change something, like when I won the prize, like until the day like printed, and they were like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. We are not reading that. And then I put everything that I wrote for 5 years in one book. It's like this big, the first book, like encyclopedia. And then they were like, oh, is that big? It will be expensive. I was like, you told me I can do anything. So there is no editing at all. And they asked me, like, do you want like your biography? And I was like, I don't want biography. I was just want Ana Marija Gърбич, rođena 1987 in Belgrade. That was one job that they had, literally. And they said, Ana Marija Gърбич, rođena 1988 in Belgrade. That was one sentence that I gave you. And nothing happens. So
they made you younger, so.
Yeah. I'm in hobbies and in library I'm younger for one book. So like for that, for the first book you're never getting in any of that 7, or maybe it's more, I think it's 7 festivals, nobody's editing your book, but you can always ask the older colleague, like look at it, or like do some reading or editing of it. I mean, even in the bigger publishing house, if that is poetry, and that's like something like that, they're like, oh, it's poetry, I don't want to touch it. It's like it's your grammar. I'm like, no, I'm just illiterate. It's not my grammar of poetry. It doesn't have the full stop. It's not a grammar. And they're like having this like mystic, like, oh, we will not touch it. Because you're poets, so you have to be sensitive to. I will bet
so
you.
Bulgarian. But still, it's let's say so Bulgarian because of the understanding of authors.
Mm-hmm.
They think that it's God told me. Actually, the publishers are very strong and want to have editors. And there is, especially in poetry, I'm sure that most of the books are edited.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Because in Serbia, like poetry is something that should
the
not be
ones
edited.
that we ever see, because
absolutely.
we don't see the ones that are self-published,
Unfortunately,
self-funded.
I must go, but I have one question, and tomorrow we'll talk more, and after days until the end of the month. But what about the self-publishing? Because let's say in Bulgaria, it's height, but near its height you can see it because there is hidden. Sorry, there is a publisher in the cover, but actually it was paid by the poet or by the author.
Of course.
And it's let's say more than 50% of all books in Bulgaria. Absolutely. Yeah.
They're paying to publish.
Absolutely.
50%.
Yeah. Of all books.
Имаш предвид да publisher country.
Let's say we have 10,000 titles per year in Bulgaria, and 5,000 of them are paid by the authors.
Yeah, that's exactly.
But that's not self-publishing. Self-publishing when you are like.
Yeah, that's why he's saying it's hidden self-publishing.
Hidden self-publishing. You have a publisher in the cover.
You have an ISBN
but actually,
and everything, but you gave 1,500.
Yeah, we have one publisher that's like that, and nobody will ever publish that who is having any dignity, ever, because it is like I mean, in Serbia it's constantly like drama about literature, so everybody knows everything. So if you would like do that,
Here as well, but that doesn't.
never, it ever,
Actually, a lot
never.
of publishing houses are
Open
only
with that.
post boxes for
Are they
your
open with
manuscripts.
it? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like give us money.
Yeah,
But you won't see those books in the bookstores, so like, it's just...
Uh-huh.
But you see
for
them
the
for the
family
but,
and friends.
but many of them are in the bookshops. Actually, yeah.
But do you have that like really self-publishing? Like
Yes,
underground,
we have it, but they are not in the bookshop.
Ah,
Because
yeah,
they don't have ISBN, they just pay to the
Yeah.
printing house to print the books and gave to friends and relatives. But
That's
let's
more
say
honest.
biggest publishing houses, a lot of them actually have this, and you can see the sign of the publishing house, which is one of the biggest in Bulgaria, but it's actually paid by the author.
I don't want to be judgmental.
Also,
now,
one of the biggest, they have imprints.
Yeah.
So I'm a big respectful publisher with a very good publishing line,
Okay.
very good catalog, and then I have several imprints
Aha, okay, to earn some money.
to earn money from the authors, so that I don't compromise my brand.
So,
Of course.
psychology and other stuff. You know that how should I earn $1 million in 7 days in print. I mean, that's very popular in Serbia. The priest who was driving a Ferrari and stuff.
Roman Sharma.
It's the top of the...
What about the watch? The watch.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
So you're saying there would be, so to say, over this publisher, for example, who is getting money from the authors, that everybody knows, and that's not acceptable.
No, that would be like, if you would publish book in that publishing house, nobody will read it, and everybody will think that it's, I'm sorry, shit, immediately, because you paid for that to be published.
And there is no things like this, let's say, in the big publishing houses,
No, you cannot do that in Laguna.
Yeah, or Archipelag, or Geopoetica, or...
No.
Especially there.
No, especially
Maybe in Laguna, maybe with
Laguna, no, Vulcan maybe, I'm not sure, but then they are like doing this blogger and blah blah blah, so they're having enough money anyway. They don't need for somebody to give them money, but yeah, that one publisher who is doing that is like small publisher, maybe, small publisher, he's like living from that kind of donations. And I remember, they also had the prize for the first book, and I was 13 and I won, and they wrote me an email, you won on the and I was like, 13 years old, and they were like, now you have to, your price is for your book to be published, and you have to pay like 500 euros. And I was like calling my parents, being like, Mama, she was like, what? And then I was like, I won a prize and I have to pay for it. Something's wrong. So they were doing that prize thing for some years.
Here we have the things like this. We have these anthologies of contemporary Bulgarian authors, poets, and...
Really? Somebody's doing this?
Yeah.
They stole my idea.
You never heard about Ivan Bogdan? Just check it.
Is there a comprehensive anthology of Serbian poetry? Comprehensive.
There is one anthology, Restart, and that is that's really big. That is an anthology of Serbian, Croatian, and Bosnian poetry in the last 10 years. And it's...
And then when it was published?
5 years ago. So it's 5 years what I'm talking about. So it is like 5 years.
You united together to have in one book Serbian, Bosnian, and
We do that all the time.
That's great.
I mean, our generations are doing that. Trying this half-dead poets, they will never do that. But they are getting like, and also like, I don't know if this is like normal for Bulgaria, but for example, the biggest prize, if we talk about money, the biggest prize for poetry is 20,000 euros.
No, it's
Okay.
not. No, the simple answer.
But only
Yeah, you
5
talked
people
about.
can get that, and they're going in a circle,
Yeah.
and they are being part of the jury. So 2 of them, and then one is getting the prize. So
So
and it's going like that in circles.
who is giving that prize?
Kusturica.
And himself.
Kusturica made 20,000 euros. Kusturica, I think, and Vital, which is oil company, is other one with 20,000 euros also. And it's like 5 names constantly going like to Vital to Andrich Grad, like this, getting that money. So like nobody can ever enter that. I mean, there is not an open call. There is not. And
It's fixed.
Yeah, in the end,
Yeah.
there is a prize winner with 20,000.
Yeah.
But it's a private award. You
Yeah,
can-
yeah. Everybody can decide it.
But
Somewhere.
Kusturica is getting government money for his like organization. So is that private or semi-government funded? But still, that is like, you know who will win that prize. You don't have any doubt in your mind that somebody from your generation will get it, or even somebody that is like 50 years old.
Which actually brings us.
And
Yeah.
so,
to you.
waiting for you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
I hope if you can come before the prize, 5, you
Can
can leave before.
can you make a prize
Close
for
for
the
pizza.
resident?
Yeah.
Can you?
Can I get 20,000 euros? I'm from Serbia, I'm used to this.
Yeah, no, their prices are how much?
There's no money.
€1,000. Oh, no money.
Yeah, there's only statue.
No money?
Sculpture. Yeah.
But at least you don't have to pay 500.
But that's an idea
You
for the
can
next
wait for
year.
nomination.
But
For nomination, 3 times as much money you can get.
Yep.
If you want to be nominated.
Yeah. I will put the next year in the prize. Okay, it was a great pleasure.
Thank you so
See you
much.
soon, I hope, and welcome all of us in the quill in Perotto. Bye, all the best.
If nobody else has questions, then I ask 2 things actually. About private money in culture and about marketing and promotion.
Okay.
Because we are here, all of us here are kulturni radnici. And we often, maybe not all of us, but,
We are all kulturni radnici.
and we often don't have 100 people at our events. And I noticed RGH's promotion is great, at least you're great in design of your posters, which means also money, not only talent and attention to this, but it also means money, all the marketing stuff.
We're not paying anything.
Or that's again part of your voluntary.
Yeah.
You do it in-house.
Yeah, we're not paying anything. I'm doing marketing by myself. I am designing Instagram by myself. My colleague is organizing like poets and designers are making, like every month we are having one other designer to make us a poster, and that is also collaboration with the young designers, so then we can like promote them also. So that's very good, and a lot of them, like actually 3 of them won prizes for the posters for RGH, and one of them was in Biennale, for God's sake, with our poster, which was great. So now like everybody wants to make it because it will be also promotion for them, which is super. Poetski picnic is the last.
No, but the page RGH something.
Oh, totalno, tačno.
Totalno.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do it, yeah, like that.
Just to show you the posters, because they are really.
So it's like we are having different artists and painters, not only graphic designers, to do all kinds of.
And they do it for you for free. Why
Yeah.
cannot? What's wrong with the internet here?
It's not working for me either. And you have album with posters, you see? I with posters. No? So it's from the first one to the last one. It's for every month. I mean, we have 3 months of pause for the summer when nobody's in.
And to print this on paper?
So who pays for the printing?
Oh, it's like 10 euros. And we also make little badges from our money for every night.
So do you charge people to listen to your poems?
No.
So
It's like,
And do you get some money from the Kakano?
sometimes it depends, like if
How
we
much
make a
beer
good
people
deal,
drink?
yeah, and how much beer people drink. Sometimes now we make a deal to get some money to be able to do the new website, because we cannot do that without money, because we don't know how to do that. So maybe this one wasn't Biennale.
This?
No, the one.
Those.
Dance. So that one won the first prize of the year.
This is.
That's Dragan
20%.
Permission, I think young, I mean not so young now, I'm becoming the, like, Serbian
percent Russian avant-garde from
Yeah. So it's like every, and we are really like, from the beginning we use social media like psychopaths. Like 9 years ago, Instagram was nothing, but really like we were so big on Facebook, we were like constantly promoting poets that were reading at our place. We were putting like little poems in some designer like circles, and now we do that with Instagram also. So we won the first prize for Instagram in Serbia 1 year ago. And I don't know, that visual identity is very important for us. And it was for a long time. But I think that's not the main reason that we have like a lot of people coming to it. It's because it's like a hyped place, because we are always like, in the city you always have moving of the hyped places, like now it's this part of the city now, and then we are moving along with that, like to be where is like the most hyped, like new cafe or something. So we are trying like to do that, and then like during the years, like the same people will come, and then the new people will come. Some will be like, I cannot listen to poetry anymore. It's like 9 years. They will go, but some new people will come, and that's why I think we have so much people. And yeah, we are like now for 3 months. We are also doing like live Facebook. So people who are not in Belgrade can also listen to the...
Do you think that this jeopardizes, this is also for everybody I guess, do you think that this actually jeopardizes, how do you say that? Jeopardizes your event? That if people know that it's gonna be broadcasted live, then they simply don't bother to come and they watch it on their...
But they want to be on the pictures. And that's also I realized that. Like, they want to be on the photos, and from the beginning we had like professional camera, and we really like to put like cool photos of people. So they are writing to our like to the page like, oh, when will you be the pictures? Like we are waiting for the pictures. It's a bit like I want to be
me
seen.
and poetry.
It's a bit like, oh, I went out in the city, but I didn't went out like regular people to some like movie. I went to this alternative, place to listen to poetry. So after I realized that, I was really like...
С Бойко да се снимат, това няма да го разберат в контекста, но не е ли така сега? Бойко днес така каза, че убирали циганите да се снимат с него. Sorry.
Roman is saying that here people are fighting to have a picture with the Prime Minister.
In Serbia, they're also...
It's Ljubimir Prime Minister, the lovely Prime Minister.
In Serbia, politicians are superstars.
So what about private money? You said Kusturica, oil company,
and then...
Can you say that compared to 10 years ago, there is more private sponsorship in arts?
No, maybe because Creative Europe is now like big in Serbia. for the last 10 years.
How big it can be? There are...
Well, it can be big, because now everybody's like, what is this? How did you organize this festival? Oh, Creative Europe, what? I'm existing for 2 years, I will apply.
Yeah, okay, but Creative Europe projects are for 200,000 euro and up. And if you're making a festival for 10,000 euro, 20,000 euro, it's just not worth.
Yeah, but if you're making like a
I mean,
prize,
and also Creative Europe is a particular type of projects, but the basic operation of small organizations, it cannot...
yeah, that's true. You cannot like live from that. But I don't think anything has changed for 10 years. I think like maybe even more now, like they're working on decentralization of Belgrade. I mean, it's really, they're not doing anything except like maybe in some like cities as Kragujevac and niche, like bigger ones, you can have some kind of like half government funded organizations, but still they like really struggle. But for the private ones, no. I think that's really like, you can have like a lot of private movie festivals, that's like...
And design.
Yeah, but for
Belgrade
literature...
Design Week is...
Yeah, it's private. But for the literature festivals, like, I don't think there is any actually that is not like semi-funded, but yeah. Or there is one, I think, Turkish, for example, is a festival who is like totally private, and they have some... No. Sometimes maybe, like, but I know because we were in the same school for getting the money from the city when we get for the picnic. I created item.
Do you have an idea how big is the city of Belgrade budget for culture?
Of course, every year is different, but
we're just coming out of it.
But I have to check that, because every year is different, but not a little bit different. It's like 1 year is like, I don't know, 50% the other year.
Because Ana Maria told me the other day that the average, that for example, when they have open calls for applications at the city of Belgrade, then you may get like 1,000 euro for a literature festival,
yeah.
No more than that, which is even lower than what we have here.
Sometimes, and sometimes you will get more if the budget is bigger, but then you will have like 2, 3. But then again, brother of the sister of the prime minister will have 10,000 for the autobiography. And it's transparent.
And our dinners or euro?
Euro. The cousin of the prime minister will have like, he's not dealing with dinners, I mean, they're not having that. So, and it's very transparent, you can see that they're like...
In the report.
Yeah,
it's
it's like... But it's crazy. But then, you know, like everybody's having their own ways to get some money. So for example, I know Beldox because I'm in the creative team. Beldox is huge documentary festival because they're having an industry and a festival. So it is like 280 guests per year, which is mind-blowing. So they're having like, from the government, they're having 10,000 euros, which is nothing for that kind of festival. But then they have a Creative Europe every time. So they put that money together and somehow they're making a festival. But with the movies, it's like most common in Serbia, like Autorski and Beldox and Zona and like for sure 10 private festivals. But with the government fund, it's only Proleće, Zora, Yes, and in my city. That kind of stuff. I never thought this much in my life. Sorry. sorry. And I work on the radio.
So at the events, is every poet limited to 3 minutes?
Well, no, we are never we are like, can you please just put it up 3 minutes or 1 minute more, just not to be because we had of course people coming reading the whole book, and I'm not kidding, just like this. And then it is uncomfortable to be to go to them, so and I think I was alone that poetry, my colleagues were not with me, they were out of country, and I let him to read everything, because I was so ashamed to go there to ask him to stop. But when we are always sending them emails, oh, we are so glad that you will be our guest, and please have in mind there is 10 people reading that night, and if you can read 1 poem per circle, and if you're reading a short story, to be not more than 1,500 characters, and people are usually, except that crazy guy, are totally okay. Yeah, it's going really fast, and then in between of the circle, after first circle, we have music, and they can drink if they're nervous, and then in the second circle they're more relaxed, and in the third one they're everything.
So you have one event a month with 10 poets.
Yeah.
So a particular poet, will they be able to come on again another month, or do they have to apply again? Or?
Well, they don't have to apply again, but we are waiting for 3 evenings to pass, so we will not repeat it. So after 3 times, then we are calling them sometimes, do you want to read again? Or
so you have a lot of poets.
7. Yeah, we have really.
Do they come to the other poets' readings?
Yeah, but they always come to us. I mean, nowadays I don't believe there is any poetry reading except Haragaha, because we are so persistent for 9 years.
But I mean whether poets would go to the readings they don't participate in.
Yeah, they will. Because it's there is a lot of poets, but it is always a small circle, so you know everybody in some sense. So everybody is friends with them, and one with another. So, and if you want to have any connection to literature scene in Serbia, you have to have that connection with poetry. That's the thing.
So out of the 100 people that might attend, are they 100 poets?
Probably 50%, and 50% wannabe is 1 point, or they were at 1 point poets. It's always like that.
Wannabe poet.
Wannabe poet, yeah.
But it is strange if somebody.
What about international poetry as well? You said, or international literary festivals.
In Serbia?
Yeah.
But there is the one that Treći Trg is organizing for years now, and they are now getting their publishing house. Treći Trg. So they have solid international poetry festival for years now, and they're always having also Serbian guests. So and they're taking you. And that's good, or some kind of excursions through to Serbia to see some monasteries and some kind of crazy Vašar things, and kafanas, a lot of kafanas, so it's cool. And they have but they're also always in the struggle with the budget for the festival. It's every year you don't know, will it happen, it will be not a disaster. So they're really trying to. So now we have a publishing house.
So which festival is considered for the big international stars? Where do they go to? Or
they're not coming.
They go to Croatia.
For sure. No, but Crocodile is having the biggest. That's for sure. But it's not a poetry festival. Treći Trg is a poetry festival, and Crocodile is just a huge festival, and it is big even now when World didn't came. But it is it was for years. It is in a great place. It's in an amphitheater in front of this huge Tito museum, and then you have like hundreds of people there packed. And it was free for 5 years. This year it was like you had to pay for the ticket, and it was a huge controversy about paying the tickets. And I would never recommend...
How much?
It was 5 euros for 1 day, 8 euros for 2, but I would never recommend to do that with the tickets, ever, to anybody, because after that, every little, I'm not talking only about Macmillan came, every mistake they made, it was like, but I paid for it. And it is like so much pressure on them that like nothing is worth it. I was like, I was communicated with them in that time because I'm a radio host also, so I was like doing like some coverage of that events, and they were like that stressed that I was like, oh, but you shouldn't like do that with the paying of the ticket because like it's catastrophic. Of course, like the main star didn't came, they didn't bring back the car, the money for the cars. Then they went on stage and they were like, oh, you want the money for the card? We have so much many guests and you are not appreciating literature. And then it was worse than it was before.
You're talking about a while back now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were like
Michelle
making this, so they were making this argument like, oh, you want Michelle and you don't like literature at all if you will go out if he's not coming. And people were like, yeah, I just want to see him. Are you like doing something like, are you accusing me for something? So it went like really big. And even after that and before that, they were like, I will pay 5 euros, so I don't want to see any mistake in this. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Are you thinking? No. They will look every mistake.
And also, I guess if you have 100 or 200 people in the audience for €5, it's not worth it actually.
No.
If the ticket is €20, then it makes a difference for your budget.
Crocodile is having 2,000, but still, like they cannot like how to say that
justify.
Yeah, that because in Serbia for €5 is not something that is like, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because like our average salary is 300, so €5 is not something that you are just like, oh, I will give it. And Michelle, oh, he didn't came, okay. No. It's like a really big deal, and it was all over the media for 1 month. They were dragging them in every TV show.
Why not him? Why them? I mean, he was the one who didn't come.
Because they didn't. Because he sent their mail in the morning and they announced that in the evening.
Michelle Welbeck
cancelled
in the very last moment.
No, he didn't cancel it in the very last moment. He cancelled it that morning, and they sold tickets. And they told in the evening.
Oh, they still sold the tickets.
And then they were like, oh, but we were thinking he will change his mind. I mean, that was nasty. Everything about that was nasty. And then they were like, they were making this like screenshot of his emails, and his emails are also idiotical. Like, oh, I didn't came because I went in Air Serbia. I didn't fly the airplane, and people were screaming because it was like a late flight and it was late for 1 hour, and I don't want to come anymore. Bye. And for them, if they would say like in that moment, like he will not come, like blah blah blah, it would be okay. But to tell the audience in that particular night, that was like, and I don't even think they had like some bad. I don't know. I think there was just like years before when somebody is canceling and they were like, oh la la la, because they didn't have this pressure on them, so they were acting like totally like some teenagers, but now it escalated to like really big scandal.
What the world needs is a secret blacklist.
Yeah, I know.
Really awful writers.
Oh yeah.
You know, catalogued by the kind of misbehaviour.
Yeah, misbehaviour.
Yeah. I have to
I
say.
could provide a few names and share them amongst all the global literary networks. That would help everyone.
But for him, everybody knew that he is never coming, ever.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal that he like wanted to come to Serbia because we are so special.
Yeah, that's the thing, because Serbia is so special.
And he will come on in Serbia because it's very important for him, for God's sake. But he didn't like the plane. That was too chaotic, and he will not come by. That was the email, and then it was in French, and they translated it in Serbian. Oh, they didn't. They first did it in French, and then it was comments down below. I'm not intellectual. I don't know French and stuff like that. I paid €5, and I'm still not intellectual. It was for a month, constantly. Like if you look there, for example, social pages in that period. The people were making like memes with him. You know, a little Shajkač, a Serbian hat, him with Rakija, him sitting with Marina Abramović. The funniest thing, him with, of course, our president, with the sheep on the mountain, writing with Ivo Andrić. It was like constant, non-stop, like trolling. Of course, he in the airplane, outside of the airplane, in the broken airplane, in the airplane with the €5 in his hand. It was super creative. And I thought in that moment, like, if I live in the country where this is a big news, then like not everything is like so black, you know. People like who didn't know who the fuck is he, now they know that. It's like when it was like that Žižek Peterson, like big, you know, that like big conversation, and everybody was talking about it. And I was like, really? Everybody's so upset about that, like debate Žižek Peterson. Okay, I live in some bourgeois world, you know. That is like the main subject in every conversation.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm afraid we have tickets for Aktiori срещу поети.
Will we go late?
I don't know.
Can you enter if you're late?
We don't have the tickets are at
We don't.
and we can cancel.
We will not come.
No, but yeah. But yes, Ana Maria will be here again until the end of the month. There will be some reading at Rome, but of Croatian, Serbian, two Croatian poets actually. At least one of them being quite awarded on the 16th, and we will post that on our Facebook page. I cannot manage Instagram, sorry. But if you want to be on the pictures,
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, you can also just write to her directly if you find that you have common interests and issues. And yeah, she just wrote a short story about a killing in the Borisova grada.
And then Victor gave me an idea.
Yes. Actually, Victor wanted to warn her not to go
in the night.
In the night in the park, because there was a homicide 15 years ago. But
Still, it's good enough for a story.
My story if somebody wants to show Ana Maria the secrets of Sofia,
The murder place.
maybe not the graves of the famous Bulgarian writers. Shpatov is the one who knows the secrets of Sofia.
Yeah.
Contact me on Facebook.
Okay. Next time we'll serve wine.
Thank you for coming.
Dora is doing the but also she's interested in interesting formats. Dora is interested in formats of
Наследство, там се грандирам там. Там се видях литература, не се видях. Да.